welcome to another episode of Go with the Flow, our self care awareness. This is Overcoming Adversity Part 2 with SwayLo and Vera. Since we had so many problems in the first episode, we had to come back with a Part 2. Hopefully, this time we can go without audio problems. I am outside today, so hopefully that will help. So, Vera, you know what? I want to
Yes.
introduce you. Vera, again, I met Vera on Clubhouse 3, 4 or so years ago.
It was during the
Um,
pandemic. I think it was maybe even 2020, 2021.
well, I know it's been a while. I know
Yep.
it has been a while. We've been on Clubhouse for a while, and the thing about it is we've never met in person. Vera lives in Canada. She lives in Canada, and I love the things that Vera does in life because she doesn't give up. She keeps going. So before we go any further into this podcast, Vera, would you like to tell everyone about the things that you are doing, where they can find you at, other platforms, and things like that, and even your website because you do have a website that you're working on currently.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, SwayLo. Hello, everybody. Yes, I am on a few platforms. I am on Discord, X, and Instagram, and Facebook as well, although I use that the least, I must admit. I have my notifications turned off on that, but I am a part of a good few books, a good few groups on there. Some of them actually have to do with books. That's why I said that. But anyway, and so Facebook Messenger, anybody ever wants to find me, you can hit me up there. I would be more than happy to speak with you and just get to know you. And I'm quite social and personable, so much so that over time I'm getting busier and busier because I'm getting more swamped. And over time, I tend to say yes more often than no. So here we are. On Instagram, I am Vera underscore period creations all together. So it's an S, Vera underscore period creations. On Discord, I am Vera space Jane, Jane being the first four letters of my last name. It's not because it's a middle name. And this website that I am currently working on, and I've help from a few friends. And it's there's a few more tweaks that still need to be done, but websites are often an ongoing process. Speaking of processes, and so on. But there's just a few more things that gotta do and tweak until I'm fully satisfied. But maybe they will be completed by Friday. But yes, it is veradragonmist.com. So altogether, veradragonmist.com. So it would be dragonmist.com. And I went with that because, well, I am inspired and I love the theme of fantasy, or like in books, a lot of times romantasy or a bit of sci fi. Those are my genres and where my heart is at and where my passions lie. So, so I did that because as a way of kind of that worlds are created from dragon mist in this case, kind of the idea of morning, morning dew, the dawn, and so that's where the inspiration came from. And I think I may have, I don't know if I mentioned this last time in the podcast or not, but looking for a title, I really at one point had 4 or 5 pages worth of titles of different options until I finally kind of settled on one. So, but I am very proud of this. I always wanted to do, well, I was always drawn to do art, but again, to do things that I want to do and that I'm drawn to do. And I love to create and share my creations. And just to, because they bring me joy and they feel like, they bring me full fulfillment. So I hope that they bring the same to people and to the audience and to show what is possible with the tools that I work with and different things like that. I've done some tactile art. I've even done some abstract art. I did one last week, so I'm going to have someone help me upload that. But I also do AI art, especially if I want to actually create elaborate worlds Maybe someday they'll be on big posters in Comic Cons. I would love that because I absolutely love Comic Cons and is my kind of vibe and my sort of tribe and area. so so yeah, so that is the website. So on there will be podcasts, the art, and possibly a few poems that I have written before. I'm not I am a pretty good writer. I'm not too crazy into writing, or about writing or whatnot, but I have joined a Zoom before where they were doing poetry, and I have sort of dabbled a bit in poetry. So I may upload some of that too. So just things to do uh, with me and things that I create and that are of me, then that's where they will go. So hopefully that answers your question, SwayLo. But yes, I've been working on this website. Really, actually, I found somebody to help me with this actually right at the end of last year. So it's been worked on since basically the start of the new year. So yeah, I always have some endeavors and ideas and things that I always strive towards, and I love doing that. I enjoy doing that. Um, I don't know, I'm not one to just sit around and not really do anything. I'm an achiever. I go for things. I like to have fun. I like to live life to the fullest, and I'm always up to something. And so Suelo is always inspired by that and loves that. And I hope I can always both inspire people, but also just share and spread that sort of energy. We always have our ups and downs, and I've definitely, struggled with mental health and have had my fair share of struggles and so on. But I just, I don't know, I just always took things one step at a time. It's easier to break things down, especially when we talk about adversities. It's just sometimes you just gotta go day by day, one step at a time, and do that emotional self check-in, check in with your thoughts, see where you're at, and do what you feel you need to do, and hopefully find good people in one's life, and things will eventually kind of come together, and it will sort of help to heal and bring on that sort of vivaciousness back, I would say.
You have a multiple of things going on right now. Um, and yes, you inspire me. And the reason why you do inspire me is because a lot of people they make excuses on why they cannot. And I repeat this to a lot of people. You have low vision. You don't allow anything to stop you from doing anything that you put your mind to. If it's an idea that comes to your head and you say you want to do it, you're going to find a way to do it. If you cannot do it per se alone by yourself, you will
Other
find a
people.
guide or some kind of way so that you will be able to accomplish any and every goal that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a part of, self-care awareness is doing what makes you happy as long as you're not harming yourself or anyone else. Doing what you want to do. I mean, it's your life. It's called your life for a reason. My life is called my life for a reason. Self-care awareness. I see a lot of people, they will put on social media, I'm out here, doing self-care awareness, but 99.9% of the time they're never alone. They have someone with them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you have low vision. Now, there's some things, there are some things you can do alone, and there's some things you cannot do alone. For the people that have their vision and they can go out and do things on their own, and they just refuse to. I'm just saying now that is not a part of self care awareness. If you cannot go out and do it on your own by yourself to understand what you really like to do, because once you get out on your own and you start doing things on your own, that's when you really learn who you are. So,
Yes.
with that being said, Vera, with learning who you are when you have that time alone and overcoming adversities, how do you feel about that? How does that help you overcome adversities?
Well, I'll answer your question in a second, Suelo, but of course, sometimes, I have like five other thoughts before I get to the question. But I will say that,
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
yeah, I know, because I can sometimes talk like a professor. I know. um, Basically, at that point, I would say to the people, it's like then asking yourself why, why or what's stopping you, taking that moment, maybe writing stuff down, that sort of self-reflection, that introspection is important, and it helps for one's self-growth and again resiliency and adversities. We talk about adversities, and a lot of this stuff is to do with actions that I'm doing, but also where I sort of came from and that emotional and mental well-being. Well-beingness has been always important to me and for me, and it is very important, and being that authentic well-beingness, those are values that always matter to me and just make me feel good. And I've been called that I'm resourceful and tenacious, and yes, I am both. And I will say that, to kind of get to your question, Swalo, that um, when I was in university, a lot of my focus went to, my studies, my schooling, study groups and with tutors and researching and doing all these things. And I didn't feel like I had enough people even in my life, and I was not where I wanted to be. And sure, we all feel stuck at different times, and some things in my life I still feel like a little bit stuck, or that, oh man, I'm still here, but I still do everything around that, to still get to where I need to be. But yeah, with forming a sense of identity, well, my identity is forming, and it's always, I think in our lives, our identity is always ongoing, it's always forming. We never stop learning, right? We never stop learning in life, just like, we never stop traveling, we never stop, doing this and that and the other. And I feel like with identity and sort of my sense of self, I used to be more anxious and think to myself, if I do this, then I'm going to have to, commit all the time, or what if I'm stuck and I can't say no? But then now over time it's gotten easier where I'm like, okay, if I just am not into it, I can just stop it, I'm not a prisoner. A lot of it is about attitude and mentality. I maybe I could say I'm still a more high functioning and anxious person, but I'm able to cope and be resilient and work through it and with it. And that's where that comes in, right? And I think as part of forming my identity, that's part of it, right? You'd have to try different things to know what you like, what you don't like. Is the same thing with babies and kids, right? You try different foods, you go to school, you meet different people. We're not on this planet alone, we're here with others, and that's how we grow and expand. We grow sort of internally, but also off of others and off of experiences. And that's where that sense of identity comes in, and is so so important, because one thing doesn't define me. Usually identity, it's a lot of things that can come into play. Like people think of work, people think of where you live or your gender, but some things can be more than that, or what makes you you, kind of thing. So that's what I have to say about identity. But yeah, when I was really more alone and more sort of quiet and just feeling worse off, then for me, I just, like I said, taking it one day at a time and trying very slowly different experiences, and just sort of seeing how that went. And over time, it's kind of like a muscle. You get stronger and you get kind of better, and it becomes easier. Um, to deal with things. And because I had more of that time to myself, I was developing more with that alone time. So over time, I'm able to sort of come out of my shell more, as some people have put it, even though you would never think that because I'm pretty social. But even me, in my own ways, I can still be coming out of my shell even now.
Yeah, I like how you said that. It basically you get stronger over time.
Yes.
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
stronger over time, and that's where it comes from. But you have to try, right? You
Yeah.
have to first step out and do something about it, right? Or you can't be
Yeah.
comfortable your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of, I want to say push yourself, but go for something that you want to do, that you feel driven to do. I mean, it's the same thing what they say with exercise, right? They say they say usually people that are the most motivated about doing something are the people that do something that they really like to do, right? Or start slow, but you know, you don't have to jump into the deep end, but metaphorically speaking, but just exactly start with something that you think will be okay or feel comfortable with. Even in my case, it was even during the pandemic, I started joining a lot more Zoom calls and even Clubhouse, hence why I met SwayLo and started to talk to more people. And for me, it was an avenue of like talking into the world, via social audio. That's why I like those apps and things so much. So anyhow, that's exactly it.
Yeah. And now look, so you started, like you said, during the pandemic, you got on Clubhouse and you started meeting different people. You met me, you met a whole lot of different other people, and now you have your website. You have a lot of different, avenues now that you're going down.
Mm,
But we
yeah,
all have to start somewhere.
somewhere.
And then again, in starting with self-care awareness, you understand where you fit in, where you don't fit in, and the reason why you don't fit in into those circles is because you have something better else to do. You're not supposed to settle. And I'm not saying, don't look down, don't do this. Please don't look down at people just because you've outgrown them or just because you want to do better in your life. You just go out and you do what's best for you. You don't have to just say, okay, well, you know what, I'm not. No, just find out where you fit, find out what you want to do in your life. And if people say it's not for you, then guess what? Maybe those are not the people for you. And I had to learn that myself because a lot of people told me that there's some things that I was not supposed to do. And the things that they told me I wasn't supposed to do is actually the things that I'm doing right now at 50 years old. And that's the thing, it's 50 years old. Well, I was doing it before 50, but I'm just saying, don't listen to others about your life because when you listen to other people about your life now becomes theirs. And a lot of time those people are even scared to live that life that they have and they don't even value it. So be like Vera. Again, Vera has low vision.
Well put.
He go he goes skiing. Now, I'm not going skiing. I'm gonna tell you that one. I'm not going skiing because of my back. I have my back is not good, so I'm not going skiing. But Vera, she does not mind going skiing. She will have that person to guide her down that slope. Go for it, Vera. You just go for whatever your heart desires. And I'm gonna go for what my heart desires. And skiing is not one of them. Now I
No.
would love to go like bungee cord jumping, but my back. Okay, I would love to jump out of a plane, but guess what? My back. So I'm gonna have to find something or different way to do it so I can land softly. Maybe if they can give me a mattress or air mattress or something. I don't know, but I'll figure that part of it out. But
And that's not something I
overcoming.
would not care to do. I always say bungee jumping or skydiving. I'm sorry, but I'm not trusting my life on strings or jumping from airplanes. I already can't see. I really, I'm sure there are some visually impaired people that have tried going skydiving. I think I actually heard of a girl who went, but she had to go in tandem, so she went with somebody. So she didn't go by herself, but she went like I think it's called a tandem skydiving, but that's not something I care to do.
I see. Yeah, well, like I said, I
So
wouldn't
things are
mind. I wouldn't mind
possible. When I
trying it.
talk to people, you can, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying it. I mean, but I just don't. I don't know. People told me I could use my wheelchair, and I'm like, I don't want to use my wheelchair. I don't want to do that. No, no. But yeah. So
And
wow.
I will say, Suelo, that to your point, it's funny because, I mean, especially me being visually impaired, I get a lot of the, oh, that's not good for you to do, or you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, or I have at least more often, especially growing up, when you're, a kid or you're younger. And you're having to like push against the current. Basically, you're trying to learn and form yourself, if you will, and your identity, plus and going against people who say and are deciding what you should and shouldn't do. That's like a double. That's like double layered. That's already more of a challenge. But when you're lucky, if you have a more helpful support system or people who understand more or are more encouraging. But yeah, no, like I mean, at least my parents did sign me up to extracurricular activities. So yeah, I did swimming for 5 years. I think I went to like level 9. I would go every week. I did horseback riding for about 3 to 3.5 years. Um,
Hold on 1 second, Vera. Let me ask this question. This I want to say hello to everyone that has came in. Oh well, they left because someone asked a question and said, "What happened to you? Did you um get in a car wreck?" And I was gonna ask, was she asking me that question?
oh,
But yeah, but okay, so but she left. But go ahead,
okay.
Vera.
Okay. To answer, just in case to be out there, since it's in the podcast, I was never in a car wreck, so that's not for me. But anyway, at least I don't think. But so to put it out there, no, I was not in a car wreck. Anyway, so I did horseback riding for about at least 3 years, three and a half. I played the piano for 2 years. I played at like little concerts, you know. Usually they were always June and December, where the teacher would put on these small little concerts where her students could play a song in front of their like friends and family members. So there was a nice group of people there. And I did the skiing. I did that for 2 years, 2 winters. I'm not really into winter sports. I can tell you that. Being in Canada, some people love winter sports, but most people here, where winters are long and it's cold, so it's hard. We talk about it all the time with friends. We're like, oh my god, another cold winter day. But I did do downhill skiing in grade 6 and 9. Actually, both times there was a woman skiing in front of me going backwards and another one behind me. So I was kind of sandwiched between two people, just in case. Sometimes they would give you a ski pole that you could hold on to, and then you'd ski, downhill, and you could hold on to that. That always made me at least feel better, at least distance wise. But yes, I did do that. I did Taekwondo for a few years. I forgot which belt I'm on, but I did a couple of championships. I actually got 3 medals. I got a silver and 2 bronze. So I did championships for Taekwondo. And right now I'm actually doing dance, which I love. My last dance lesson, for example, there was salsa and samba. And I have a really good instructor. He's a good lead. And there may be other things in there that I just, slipped my mind right now. Obviously, I did skating before a lot during gym class, because the winter sports, sometimes they had us go outside. And oh, I did cross country running. And in gym class, because I went to a regular school, so everybody knows, I did not go to a special school for the visually impaired. I went to a regular school, so usually the answer was never no. It was always try and figure out how you can work around this. And I grew up with that. My special teacher assistants would tell me, they said, if you can't do an assignment, talk to your teacher, advocate for yourself. And, I sometimes a teacher, if it was too much of a visual assignment, we would discuss and figure out what kind of an assignment I could do so that it would be valued the same. I went to a regular university, I did exams, like I had accommodations, but I did. I was in classes with over 400 people. So I'm very much used to, how to put it, living in the world and being around everybody else and people all the time. And so for me, growing up, like I said, no was it was never really an option of no. Well, in the school, you could never say no. You always had to find a workaround. If you couldn't, either you could do it or you couldn't do it, and you had to adapt or speak to the teacher. So growing up with that mentality and that sort of attitude and behavior really serves me well long term and really helps.
Okay, what about also like working? So you work, you
Yeah.
go to work to pay your own bills, you go to work to be independent so you can get your own house. You want to
House.
become a homeowner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I know.
a lot of people again make excuses that have their vision,
Mm-hmm.
have 100% vision on why they cannot become a homeowner, the reason why they cannot whatever. And
Yep.
you are making ways or finding ways to do all of these things, having low vision, to maintain a job, to fix or work on your credit so you can become a homeowner,
Yep.
and you're ready to get a home so you can live on your own being visually impaired, and you are ready, excited. And I know so many people this, they make excuses and say, well, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And the reason why they can't do it is just because they have to become independent.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I will say, it's funny because again in high school, there were teachers, and they would say to me, oh, like being Canada, they would say, oh, you don't really, know French, you're not likely to work in the public sector, and I already had
Okay,
four
Vera,
jobs
Vera, bring your phone back over, please.
here.
No, the other way. A little bit more. No, I don't know. It turned there. Go a little bit more. I don't know. It shifted. It's like half of your face now. It wasn't
Shifted.
that way. Yeah, it wasn't that way in the beginning.
Is it over 25 minutes since we've been talking? At least you hear me.
Yes,
Over.
yes. It's been over 25 minutes. It's
Yeah,
26.
same as last time. I didn't touch anything.
Okay, it's going down. It's almost there. It was almost there. I
Let's
don't know.
see.
It's like it shifted. Yes. I don't know.
What about like this?
No, I can't see the bottom of your face, or so I only see half of your face now.
I see. So same thing's happening, but camera stuff. Hold
Right
on.
there, right there, right there. Stop right there.
Oh dear. Okay, this is very specific angle.
Right there.
I
All
will
right,
do
there
my
you go.
best.
All right, there you go. Go ahead.
I, I will do my best to try to keep it at this particular angle. Let's see. Has to be right in front of the chin. Well, there we go. We'll try.
We're at
Um.
27 minutes. We have 27 minutes right now.
Okay, we're doing good. Okay, I'm gonna do my best and try and hold it at this particular angle. Um. But anyhow, so and I was in the government. I had four jobs, and surrounded by people who spoke French. And, I remember my art classes, I wanted to try and take one or two art classes in high school. And, the teachers would say, oh, no, you shouldn't really be there. You can't take that class because they're like, if you do it, you would need help. So technically, it's not like fully you doing it. You would be, it would be more like if the teacher, your TA was to be graded and not you. So I was disappointed, but I was like, okay, and I felt down. But all these years later, and look at what I'm doing. And so those are, examples that come to mind where people who told me I wouldn't be in such an environment or I couldn't do this or that because it wouldn't be fully me. Well, now at least I'm no longer in school and not and doing it my way. and everything that comes out is all me, and it's not like I'm graded, but still. So, and thanks to the tools that we have today and so on, and like I said, people who've helped me along the way with other art projects, for example, and stuff like that. I'm able to do things, but yeah, no, like I said, I have goals and ambitions. Like when I was little, I mean, I didn't know what the future held, but when people talked about, oh, when you'll be working one day, or I used to think maybe I'll have kids one day, it was never an option of, oh yeah, you're not likely to have this or that because you can't see, and if anything, maybe I have very high expectations for myself in my life, so that's why I said I really go for stuff. But as a result, I really get to do the things that make me happy and achieve, and just because I achieve so much and do more than most people, I don't know, it obviously brings me great sense of pride, and again, that's sense of well-beingness for me. But this is what I'm like and what I like to do and to live life. And so and exactly what SwayLo said, if there's a circle of people that are not good for you, then yeah, they're usually not meant for you, or they're not sort of your tribe, your group, or people that will just understand you or hear you out or all these kinds of things. And now things are becoming right now more divided, so it becomes even more poignant to try to meet more good quality people and good friends. But like I said, and that's part of the sort of social adversity. That would be that subject.
That is so true. That is so
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Um, hmm. Because I'm gonna say this: if you can't have peace within, your immediate circle, your friends or whatever, what's the point of having them?
Mm,
I mean, for real. I'm not saying that you have to agree on everything everyone has their own opinion. But this is the one thing I've been trying to tell a lot of people. Sometimes just keep your opinion to yourself. Sometimes your opinion is your opinion, but it doesn't have to be voiced. That's just the way you feel. Or if you do voice it, make sure that you are around people that can take it, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's constructive criticism, whether it's, I mean, whether it, whatever it may be. Because some people, they just are not ready for you to be you. They want to say that they can take you as you are, but they really can't take you for who you are. They want you to be the person that they want you to be. So that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be very, very careful about taking other people's advice, about listening to other people. Um, and especially every time we say something to someone, if it's like, oh, you know what, that doesn't make sense. Oh, that's crazy. And that's something else we have to be very careful with as well. Um, we really have to know what we stand on. And I'm gonna tell you, um, if someone would have came to me and told me that, okay, well, hey, SwayLo, you're gonna be doing this thing on Clubhouse, I would have told them, you know what, you're crazy. Nobody's gonna listen to anything I have to say. And the reason why I say that is because that is what was told to me growing up. Nobody wants to hear a damn thing that's coming out of your mouth. Nobody wants to hear anything. So that's what I had instilled in my mind. So that's why I always say, and Vera, you've heard me say this for years on Clubhouse, do not listen to anyone else. And that's the reason why I say that. But if you have it in your heart, and as long as you're not harming yourself or anyone else, if you can see a future in it, it doesn't matter on if the people around you can see a future in it. You'll find your tribe that can see a future in it. People, like I said, the people closest to me told me I couldn't do Clubhouse, but I've been doing Clubhouse for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, you have to know you. You have to understand you. And Vera, I'm glad that you know you, and I'm glad that you understand you. And the main thing I'm very glad about when it comes to you is that you started to do the self-care awareness.
Yeah.
Because when you start doing the self-care awareness, it makes you stronger. It makes your life to you more meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of if even if nobody's there. If nobody's there, you're still gonna have fun. You
Yeah.
know how to have fun.
Yeah, no, it's
It's
true. And you do it for
yeah.
yourself. You do it for you. Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's what I liked about, Suelo's self-care awareness rooms. It felt kind of like gentle, almost like spiritually gentle. Like we would join, we'd come in, talk about, what are we doing for our self-care awareness, whether it was baths or showers or, if how we were feeling. And we had a support circle to be able to let our feelings out or, talk about our struggles and where we're at and about the process. And even having that more, I think, gentle mindset because I was always surrounded by people, we always had a lot of pressure on ourselves. There were a lot of expectations, a lot of things that you have to fulfill, you have to do, you have to do, and I would almost go way above and beyond what others would be expected of them because that's what this person who was more abusive and a bully of me growing up, not in my family but used to tell me. He was like, you sometimes may have to do 3 times the amount of work as other people, and it made me feel worse and it made me feel more worthless and like I can never do enough. So part of all of that too was to strip away sort of almost like your internal wounds, and this is still, always an ongoing process, and kind of sit with yourself, be with yourself, have people you can go to if you can, and which is always uh I want to say way more helpful and healthier, I feel, and that's what I need, for example, and just sort of have like a healing, almost cleansing space, and either if it's with yourself or a group that you're in, and just sort of take that time. And over time, I became, you can become a bit more patient with yourself, and it's a lot of that self-love, and it's something that a lot of people struggle with, and I'm not 100% there, and I will say that, but it's definitely something where it's easier. And when I was able to sort of strip away more of those sort of wounds and the harmful and more negative thoughts that I had and work with those over time, then it's like I'm able to again, it's like being that lobster, you come out of your shell and then you're able to sort of grow back new skin or a new part of you. And that's where that resilience comes in, and you build that, um and you just, yeah, kind of become, you're still yourself, but you're kind of a new person, and the experiences build you, but then you keep going.
Yes, it's more of less like this is why I had to go through all of the hell. This is what this was for. It was to build me for this time, so now I don't have to go through it, right?
Mm,
I've learned, and now I can just sit down and be peaceful. I can be still, and I can just go out and I can have fun by myself because I don't have to have the wrong type of energy around me.
mm-hmm.
And that's what self-care awareness is about. So overcoming adversities, that's what that's about.
Yeah.
The PTSD, the trauma of growing up, thinking that we have to have, thinking that we need. And Twinkle Toes. That's the name I gave her, Twinkle Toes, because the way she just dances, she dances so lightly. I mean, she just
Mm.
twirls, and I can't wait till people,
Floats
y'all
on
go
the air.
check out her videos, especially while she's out there dancing. I mean, she's just out there, she's twirling, she's doing it,
I
and
should go on the website, some of them. I don't have any on Instagram. I sent some to my friends, including you, but one time I should post some of those onto the website too.
yeah,
Dancing,
yeah,
poetry, art, podcast, you name it, all of it. I know, right? Sounds like me.
ex-
Throw it all in one
exactly.
basket.
So for people, that's what I'm saying. For people that want to make excuses of why they can't dance, I mean, here you are. You have low vision. You're out here dancing. You have low vision. You're skiing. What
Yep.
does anyone else? What's the excuse? This is the best example that I could ever see, and that's why I was like, "Yep, I need you on this podcast because you overcame. You are overcoming a lot of things, a lot of
Thanks.
adversity. You overcoming a
Yep.
lot of yes,
I
a lot of
do.
life challenges.
Yep. SwayLo would know.
Yeah,
Sometimes I call SwayLo and tell her my challenges or even small things in life, but I do on a
yeah.
more frequent basis, but it's true. And I'm one to tell, sometimes I have to sort of, I mean, I can be quite direct, but be direct with people. If I've said, listen, I feel like you're taking advantage of me, like I had to do with someone recently. And it's not something I like to do, but if I have to, it's about using your voice, too. But exactly, right? I come over adversities very often, and it's something I know I always will have, and everybody always has, to deal with that, and that's the thing. But yeah, no, that's exactly it. And with dance, it's a lot of it is feel, right? Because I don't see, so you just gotta feel, and it's kind of similar in life. You just have to feel through it, right? Does it feel right being in this group or with these people? Does it feel right to do this? I'm doing this for a bit. Okay, now I'm kind of done doing this. Or, oh, I like this. I should keep going. Or, so that's a sense that I think everybody can always tell. It's always feeling. People may be hearing impaired, not able to walk, but we can always feel. And I think that's a really strong universal sense.
I like that. I like that. I'm over here. I'm just like, yeah, I like that. But that's the truth, though.
Yeah.
The sense of feel, the sense of vibration.
Mm-hmm.
How do a lot of even when it comes to reptiles and animals, how do they hunt? They from vibration, from
Yeah.
feel. You're
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes. So
Wow.
feeling goes, I think, beyond the body in a way, if we even talk about consciousness and everything beyond, it's people often say it's feeling first, right? So that kind of surpasses all the senses. Maybe it's kind of like a sixth sense, that we could improve on or be better with, but like I said, it's and that's again part of that growth, self-awareness, self-care, and I think you can fine tune it. I mean, people say to me all the time, they're like, Vera, if you're visually impaired, your other senses must be stronger. I'm like, yeah, they are. I notice other things more that most people don't, you know. But again, you're more in tune. You feel things more.
You know, if I were giving out trophies, you would give the first trophy in self-care awareness out of the whole group.
Oh,
And I'm saying and
thank
I'm
you.
saying this, I'm saying this for the whole world to hear. Out of the whole entire
Oh,
group, out of everyone that's on Clubhouse, you would get the trophy for self-care awareness because you do it, you live it, and you
yeah.
show it. You show it. You have, I mean, from the very first time, that we all started. Because we all started together. So because we were all new, meeting each other. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you would get a trophy.
Oh,
And we
thank
are
you.
40. You're welcome. We're 41 minutes as of now. 41 minutes. I just want to
Uh,
let you know that. Okay, so
Okay.
uh, overcoming adversities. Wow, Vera, you are amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
Means a
welcome.
lot.
Thank you for not
Yeah,
giving
it's a
up.
high
Thank you
compliment.
for thank you. Because there's so many people that are even ashamed. They don't want to speak. People want to be in the limelight, but they don't want to do the work to get there. It's like,
Mm,
oh, this is what I want. You want your website. These are things that you have to do. You have to put something on your website. You have to create some kind of content in order for people to know who you are, what you represent, what you stand for. And if you don't do any of that, who's
yeah.
Vera?
Yeah. Yeah. I I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice that to know that any of my struggles and pains have not gone for nothing, because a lot of times I know we've all been there where we feel, either worthless, not enough, or the adversities are just too much. And but like I said, it's at some point I think everything always has meaning. And in hindsight it's easier to see that, but yeah, and look at the faces of people that are in hospitals or that are suffering, and when you take it right down to the bottom, then that's when you start to notice the self-care, where that you kind of need to start. Sometimes it's all from ground zero, from you, because it's so easy, especially nowadays, to be almost torn apart or feeling polarized, or and but if you do that, then you become better off for it and stronger mentally, emotionally, and just your well-beingness. So that's I think a very important lesson. And like I said, for me, self-care awareness was a room of healing, and where I can, dish out a lot of my stuff, but be in a place where I felt comfortable and able to do so. So, so it was just what I needed and at the right time. And I'm glad, I do the things that I do and talk to the people that I do. And, if some people are only there for a season or a couple of years that you talk to, then you're like, well, at least I'll find somebody else or do something else, you know? So it's always it's like a buffer, becomes easier to sort of bounce back.
You know that. Wow. I'm just gonna say, to hear that it works, you know, for people. No, I mean not just you. I receive phone calls, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the years, saying, "Hey, SwayLo, whatever, whatever." I'm just I had to be obedient because just like how you said, we go through things. We don't go through these things just to go through them. It's anything that we go through is not in vain. It's for us to share with others. So they won't have to be fearful or be ashamed or anything like that. Um I came from not being able to actually be heard. Well, they heard but they didn't listen. There's a difference when people don't listen. I hear you, but it's just yeah, 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 but I'm not listening. That's what I came from. And I know how that feels. what made me actually honestly create the self-care awareness space on Clubhouse is I really was tired of witnessing people trying to be heard and they were being shut down. You only have 2 minutes. Nope, don't say that. I don't want to hear that. Especially all of the quote unquote Christian rooms. You're supposed to be a Christian, but you can't say this, don't say that. But if this person can go to God and say this to God, how what makes you any better than God? So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and make this space. People are being shut down, people are being hurt. And people at the time, people were actually committing suicide on Clubhouse for whatever reason. I don't know. I wasn't in those spaces. I just heard about people committing suicide. So I'm the type of person that if you see something, do something about it. Don't just say something, do something about it. So that was me doing my part and making a change to give people a voice to say what they need to say without replays so nothing could be held against them and somebody go back and play a recording and be like, oh well, this is what you said in SwayLo's room. No, there's no replays for a reason. Say what you need to say, get it off your chest, go on about your week. It's every Saturday. I do talk to a lot of people outside of Clubhouse because some people can't wait to Saturday. It is what it is, but we all
Mhm.
go through what we go through for a reason, for our purpose, for our calling. Understand what your calling is, understand what we're supposed to do. Like Vera,
Mhm.
you are, you're motivating people. And I'm not talking about people just with low vision, people not with no vision. You're motivating everyone across the table. And it's because you have low vision and you're not giving up. So
Yeah.
nothing that we go through is in vain. And you just wait.
Yeah.
You just wait until it takes a little time. It takes, as we talk about the process, right?
Yeah.
We all have a process. When you try to rush it and jump to it, it's when it all
Oh yeah.
fails because you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take your
Yeah.
time.
I- I'm the person, I make the impossible possible. That could be almost my motto. I don't have one specifically, but I remember also when I went to space camp 3 years in a row in Huntsville, Alabama. By the way, I'll do a nod to that. I was there were a few people from Canada that went. Most people were in the States, some from other countries, but not too many. And it was always the last week of September, and they used to always say, just because you can't see the stars doesn't mean you can't reach them.
That is so true. That is so I couldn't hit the mic button fast enough, but that is so true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yep. So I
Yeah.
mean, so yeah, like I said, I would go to, and go to these cool camps and do these things, and like I said, just enjoy myself, have fun, meet other people, and you never know where life takes you. So it's always a journey. Take it more as an adventure, and yeah, So I'm glad I could be here. I'm glad I could motivate, share my experiences, talk about, self-care, how we met, and kind of, a bit of my path of where I've been on and been and coming from. And no, it's always a joy. It's always a joy to speak to you, Swalo. And I never thought I'd be in podcasts and on YouTube sharing my stories and my struggles, but then also being a somebody and just inspiring and so on. So glad to always be here.
Well, thank you for being here. And again, your life, what you're going through, your experience, it's not in vain because you never thought you would be here.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, who am I? And well,
Yeah.
who are you? You know who you are, but look where you're going now. And that's
We
because
learn
you
who we
self
are
doubted.
with where we're going.
That's because you self doubted. You self doubted yourself. You didn't give yourself enough. Come on
Uh,
now. And this is where we are. All of this is live. There's nothing
yep.
edited, never, nothing ever. So when you doubt yourself, now here we are in 2026. In 2020, did you think you would be here? In
No,
1999. Wait, how old were you in 1999?
7. I was in
Okay,
grade 1.
podcasting wasn't even on your mind in 1999.
I don't think that existed then.
Right. So
No.
now here you are doing something that you never thought. So again, we never know, but we all have a purpose. And just because we think it may be one way, it may end up being a podcast in a different way. Who knows? I don't know. But
Yeah. And,
whatever
and
whatever we go through is not in vain.
no. And like I said, we learn who we are and we're forming into who we are with wherever we're going. It's always time, right? That's why in life we always have time. Time moves forward because we grow, we become into who we are, I think, meant to be, and hopefully we do, and learn a lot of lessons along the way. And I think that's part of the gift of life is time, that we have that time to be able to do that. I remember saying that once to a lady, and she was like, I think that's so profound. But, I had this realization one time, and I was like, oh my God, I was like, it's like time, but, and I wanted to share a song that sometimes I would hear. It's not one people often hear of, but it's called Pilgrim. It's actually by Enya. My parents used to listen to that. I don't generally. It came up in my Apple Music one time, but there are certain lines in that song that really stand out. And it's about a pilgrim and going on their journey and discovering about themselves and in life and through everything they say and do. And the last line is to find out who you are. And that is very true. That speaks to me. So wanted to end off on that and share that.
All right. Well, thank you for that share. And again, y'all go check out Vera on all her platforms, Discord. Who else you say? You have a website. You want to run them down one more time before we get out of here?
Yeah, the website, veradragonmist.com. My Instagram is Vera underscore period creations. My ex is Vera, I think is Vera Jane 33. And on Discord, just Vera Jane. Because I'm on LinkedIn and stuff, but that's more work related. So anyway, I am on Facebook. I think on there I'm just maybe Vera Jan. Because some of them I did the first 3 letters of my last name and some the four and then some not at all. But I think that one is just Vera Jan. Anyway, but those are the platforms for sure. So people can hit me up there, find me there. So
All right. All right. And I want to thank you very much for being here. And you know what? We're wrapping up right on time because I don't know. It looks like the storms are coming. This weather's crazy here. I know the storm's supposed to be tomorrow, so I'm glad we did this today because we wasn't able to do it last week when we were supposed to. But hey, we're here. But love your life on purpose for your purpose because we all have a purpose. And you know what? Once we figure it out, we have to get out there and work it because just like how Vera said, what we go through, all the hell that we go through is not in vain. It's for our
mm.
purpose. And honestly, once we figure out our purpose, and Vera's going to be the witness of this, once we figure out our purpose and once we understand that the hell we go through is not in vain, it actually becomes a happy life.
Mm.
It
Mm-hmm.
it it becomes a happy life. It makes you happy, and nothing can stop you from being happy after that point. So until we meet
Yep.
again, y'all stay safe. And just because I don't do the things that I used to do, because ooh, y'all will hear my story. I used to be a drinker. You talking about overcoming adversities. It's been a long 15 years since
Mm.
SwayLo used to be the drinker that I used to be. But just because I don't do the things that I used to do, y'all please, if you decide that you want to get out there and do anything, get you a designated driver. Call you an Uber, call you a Lyft, call somebody, but just don't get behind the wheel. Because I tell you, there was some nights I don't even know how I made it home, but that's what later date. But Vera, thank you again. Thank you for all of your positivity. Thank you for your self love. Thank you for your self change. And especially with it being with SwayLo in the self care awareness room. That's the best part. That is the best part. No, because a lot of people said that what I was doing when I first tried to start it in 2018, they told me it wasn't going to work. People even try to steal my ideas to do other things. But when I told them about self-care awareness, they told me it wasn't going to last 6 months. And look how long we've been doing it. So thank you for not giving up on you, because I didn't give up on me. So don't you give up on you. So we will talk later, and I'm going to do the 30 second countdown, and we're going to get out of here. You
Awesome.
have fun in Canada. How's the
Ciao,
weather?
everybody.
How's the weather in Canada? Is it cold?
Windy. Actually,
Windy?
it's not as cold. You could say maybe mid 50s Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius, but it's windy.
All right. Well, you have fun in
We're
Canada.
flying. I will. Time to fly
All
off.
right. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.